Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let's continue with the previous session where we were creating the room, and in the room UI we had this table concept. And what we did was, in the room table model, you remember I said to represent the table we create a model, and because we are extending the abstract table model, we are required to implement these overridden methods. We have to override these methods, and one of the important methods that you have to handle was how many rows does this table exist. So we asked our room controller how many rooms does it have. So the room controller says it has 3, but that is not going to be the case, right? Because only the database knows this. So in this video we are going to try to see how we can retrieve this kind of information from the database. So get the room count. So how many are actually there? We don't know that, so we say count is equal to 0. We are going to return this count, and this gets modified in our SQL query, right? So what is the query we could use here? We could say select count star, right? So remember, this is a SQL query, basic SQL query. So select count star as total rooms, total rooms from room. So it's that simple. This is basically the query we want. We actually want a answer to this query, and then we will have the answer. So remember, you have this result set that you are going to use. Actually in this class you actually created the result set, didn't you? No, there is no. In the customer controller, did we create a result set? We don't. Okay, so no problem, we can continue similarly. Room controller, a result set. We will need a result set in order to get the data from the result set. Okay, how many rooms are there? So result set, because we are going to do a query, we need to store the data in the result set as capital. Result set, okay, result, this is the query result, is equal to, we are going to ask this from the database controller. So now the database controller of course has this information, so we say database controller dot get MySQL result. So we are sending the query into MySQL, getting the result, and because this is going to be just one count, one row, we'll just go to the next row. It's not going to need a while loop, so we just say okay, process this request, go to the next row that you have just queried, and then this is going to generate an exception. So just like normal cases, we have to handle this exception. So let us try to create a try and a catch. Okay, so of course I remember some students were asking me about the try catch. Now if you haven't studied this earlier, we could study this. We actually have a topic for that. Okay, so if there is an error for some reason, of course display this error. Right, so go to the next row, and now we say count is equal to what we get from that result. So result dot get string. Okay, and what is it? Get string total room. We had a column called total room. There is no column, but this is how the table returns. See, we say count star as total rooms. So this is going to be the query. Now it was going to create a problem here, and this is a string, so remember this is not a single quote, should be double quotes. Get string value total rooms. Now we have the count inside our this variable. Little problem, this is a string, so we have to convert it into integer. Integer dot pass int, send this value into the pass int. Now we have an integer value count. So there we have our basic result set. Again, remember to close your database connection. Sorry, we just copy this. So we are closing the connection here, not in the database controller. Here we are closing it because we want to process the result set. That's why we are closing it here. Okay, so now we have the basic information. Sorry, this is E, not EX, exception E. See, right? So now we can get dynamically the count. How many counts do we have? Yes, here it is. Query the database and result it, return it. Simple. Okay, the next thing we try to do was, in order to display the table, we wanted to remember in the memory of the Java program, we want to store a variable with all the room IDs in the order. That way we will have an easy way to manipulate our table by sending the data and this value. See, this value. When the table is being drawn on the interface by the Java JTable, it will ask what is going to display in first row, first column, second row, second column, first row, first column, first row, second column, first row, third column. That will be executed by this function, and we need to have this information. See, first row, first item, first row, second column, first row, third column. The information need to be there. So that's the reason why we need to have the room ID, and the use in the room ID, we will look for which row you are looking for, you know. So are you looking for the first row, second row, third row? Then it will, if it is third row, it's going to return this value, and then we can go to the database and query this information and return. That's what we are doing here. So we use that information, and then we ask the database controller or the room controller to give us a room record for that. Now, little bit important thing that here you remember is, see, we have this item called hotel name, but the database is going to return hotel ID. You know, it's going to return a hotel ID. So what we are going to do is we are going to just go to the room class here. We will just add a room hotel name here. Private integer hotel name. The reason is, although database doesn't have this field, our room can have this field. That way, when we get the room hotel name from the hotel table, we can store it here. It's easier to query. Okay, so of course you need to create a getter and a setter, see, as usual. And although you don't need to assign it, see, you don't have to assign it here, because it is something you are querying, not something you are storing into the database. So you add a getter and setter as usual here. Let me just insert the code for the getter and a setter for our new variable. Yeah, there it is. And then we can implement this part. Okay, what are the room IDs we have? So the room IDs we have are all the room IDs in the database column, in the database database table field. Okay, so get room IDs is going to be an array list. It's going to return. Okay, we already have that array list ID. So we are just going to do a query again. So this time basic query. So as usual, what is the query we are going to have? We are only going to require room IDs. So select room ID rm underscore ID. That's the field name from room. And here we are going to make sure that the display is in a specific way. Okay, let me say what I'm talking about. When you are displaying the table, if it is going to appear in the table as you see here, then it will not be that useful, because you have hotel here, hotel 1 here, hotel 1 here. You might have another hotel 2, hotel 3 here. So you might see a room from this hotel, another room from that hotel, again you see a room from this hotel. So we'll actually order it by hotel ID. Okay, order by hotel ID, htl underscore ID. That's the name of the field. That way, when we get the room fields, we are going to have a specific order. So this is how the table order will be in our JTable. It will show all the rooms by hotel ID. Okay, so there we have. Now we can create a small result set again. So result set, we could actually create a global variable to be used, but so result is equal to, you are sending a query into the database as usual, database controller dot get MySQL result for this query. Once you have this query, again this time you need a while loop, because there is many IDs. So you need a try catch, because you are going to handle queries. There may be an issue, so try to process it. How do you do that? While, you will need a while loop, because it's not one row, it's many rows. While result dot next. So you go to the next record, result dot next, go to the next record, and from there you grab only the ID and put it into the room ID fields. Room IDs dot add, and here you are going to get the field result dot get string, send here the room ID rm underscore ID. So all the room IDs is going to query one by one and add into this array list, and then you're going to return it. Of course, after you're done with your while loop, you'll close your database connection as usual. So remember, these things are similar. It's kind of very similar. Okay, so get the room ID, and now you have your room IDs. Okay, how is that useful? It's useful because in our room we have all room IDs here. That is the order in which we are going to display in our table. So every time we'll get the first ID, and then we will send a separate room record query, and it goes in the database and queries that is specific room ID. So for example, actually we have ordered it by hotel ID, so it will actually, we can check that, we can actually check this query, the result of this query. Select room ID, order by hotel ID. I'm going to select everything from room ID here, order by, to show you what I mean, htl underscore ID. So it's going to actually have this way. See, the room IDs are not in order 1, 5, 2, 3, but hotel IDs are in order. So the first item that will appear in our JTable will be this one, then this one, then this one, like that. We remember that order because we have previously queried these room IDs. That's the purpose of that. Okay, now we have to implement our room record, which is going to be in our room controller here. See here. So we need to go to the database and grab a room. So how do we do that? The same thing again. Yes, so based on a specific room ID, you are going to send the query to the database and get a specific room. So you say room equal tb room equal new room, and later you are going to reassign it. Let's create a query as usual. We are going to need a query. What is the query? Select. Okay, so this is something you will remember. We are going to read hotel name from, so we are going to read room, everything in the room because hotel ID and everything is there. Staff from room, we need everything in the room table, so everything here we are going to have them, plus we are going to need hotel name. So in order to get the hotel name, we have to do a join. So we say in a join hotel, and if you want, we can just limit the fields, but hotel has only hotel ID and hotel name, so there is not a problem. In a join hotel, and this is MySQL syntax. So we say using htl underscore id. So that means htl underscore id is going to appear in both tables as fields. And remember, this is when you have to give queries, of course. So what's the criteria? There's a specific room ID we are looking for, because that's why this query came in the first place. So what is the room ID? The room ID is that specific field over here. It is integer. So we are going to send that record into the room ID, plus what is the room ID? rm underscore id, plus we are going to close our query with a semicolon and a semicolon, of course. So queries also have a delimiter of semicolon. That's why we need that. I hope you understand that part. Simple. Again, as usual, we are going to send a query. See, this way we are going to send a query, and we are going to use try catch block, and we are going to close the connection, and we are going to do try catch everything. So let's copy paste here, and this time we are going to send a query, database results equal, send this query, get the results, process every query one by one as we just said it in the previous case. But this time when we have the query result, what we are going to do is we are going to say, no, we have the results, we have the result with us now. So we say room, that, no, sorry, db room, see, db room dot set. See, now we have these things, we can easily set them up. So we start with the hotel name. So what is the hotel name? We already have this information in the query. So we say result dot get string, and what will be the string, you think? Hotel name, because we already have this htl name from hotel. We did a join query. Now we have the hotel name in our room record, so it's very simple to display that information. And then we have, okay, so in this case, set hotel name as string cannot be converted integer. Oh, it is a string in room, so we No problem, we just convert it this way into integer. What is the error now? String cannot be converted to integer. Set hotel name. Hotel name is a string, isn't it? Hotel name is, oh, look at this, string hotel name. This is a hotel name is a string, guys. Remember this one. I guess you have been seeing that all this time. You could have shouted, hey, that's wrong. Okay, so in the controller, now it's okay. So like that we are going to set everything. So db room dot set hotel name dot set hotel ID. We could set hotel ID also, but we don't need that because we just have the room and we are only going to display the hotel name. We remember the room ID, so we can query later. So we are going to set the other important things like room type and room number and those things. So one by one you can set them. Set room number, next item, and that is going to be equal to similarly. So I'm going to just copy paste these things. So this part is not necessary now. It was a string now. Okay, what is this field? Room number. So room number is stored in the database as rm underscore number. That's how room number is stored. This time is in integer. So okay, integer dot pass int, send this into the room number, and then yeah, you have a room number. Okay, that's the room number. The same way you can type the room type. So I'm going to just copy this thing here. We not send room type, we not send room price, also room status. So 3 more status. So set room number, and then we have set room type. Is it the correct spelling? Yeah, so this is definitely rm underscore type. That's a field name, we don't need to convert it into integer. It's a string field. Set room number, set room type, and then room price, and this field is set room price. Yeah, no, it's not correct. So what's the field name? Dot set room price is room set price. Okay, this time it's a double value, so we have to convert it into double dot pass double. These things are necessary in Java. There is no way around these things. What is this? This is a price. Okay, so we have a field called rm price, so we'll just get rm underscore price and convert it into double and assign it. The last item is status. Set status. Okay, I'm just assuming this is the name of the field. Yeah, it's correct. What is the status? Using the status field, of course, right? So rm underscore status. Oh, status, I think. Let's see. Status. Yeah, here it is, status. Okay, so now we have everything we need for the room. We have retrieved a specific role here. Okay, right, so now our results are working fine. Connection, database closed, database connection is closed. Now we have everything we need. Okay, so now everything is dynamic. It goes to the database and query. This information comes from database, this information comes from database, this comes from database. Now our table model is complete. Okay, so how do you make the table appear? This is the important part now. So this is a room table model. We have to create a room table model in our room UI here. First of all, you have to create it here at the top of, you need here a room. Okay, so you're going to say room table model. So this is room table equal new, I guess this is this name we already have. So room table mode table template, let's call this as like this, room table template equal new room model. We have an empty constructor there, remember, so we can do it like this. Okay, so now that we have a room table template, copy this variable name, you go into the design view. This is our table. Right click the table, go to properties, see, look at this table name, room table. That's why I renamed that variable. So we already have room table. Okay, so here you can change a little bit of how it is displayed, because the items are really going to be super small if they are in that font. Now go to the properties and go for something called table model here. Table model, go to this custom code and put here the table model. This is the room table model template that we have created. So we are using our own table template and we are assigning it here. Now when you run this one, this is going to have all the rooms. Let me show you. Click room, unknown column name, room price not found. There is a problem. There is a problem in the room price. Okay, so room price in the room controller there is a mistake. We are using price, room underscore price. It is actually price, not rm underscore price, right? Run it again. Room. Oh, some more problems. Oh, look at that. We actually have this information. Why it appears like that? Let's try to solve that problem. So here you can right click table, make it look a little bit nice. So in the padding, you see cell editor, cell selector, cursor, you can always make it look nice. There's a width column where the reason why they appear close to each other is because you have intercell spacing as 1 1. See, so let's change this as width of 5, height of 5 maybe. Now it will be nice, I think. So it sets up that see, it sets up that there is some error still. Why is this error coming up? Let's try to look for this error. So in the room controller we are not displaying something somewhere. Error, is there anywhere we are not displaying the error? Just show message, e.get message, e.get message. There is some error occurring in the room table model maybe. Columns dot length. Let me run it and you see anyway. Room, this column, this error we have to find out what this is. Okay, see, column names doesn't appear. Okay, and also that font is still not nice. So there's something else still. Where's our design? Sorry. Room UI, design, go to the table properties. 5,5 is something else. Maximum size, minimum size, preferred size. Oh, here, row height. Row height. So what's the row height? 16. Row height, let's put a value here as double of that, so 32. Row margin, that means between each row, the other row, there's a 5 pixel. Is it pixel? No, 5 points. No, it's 10. Okay, close. And this time let's fix that problem. There is one step here. It cannot display the hotel name like this column names, and that is because there is one more function we have to implement. Actually it doesn't appear here, but we can write it. So that's used in a column get column data. So the idea there is it doesn't know about the column details. You have to return the table by returning column name. So let's try to create this function, public string get column name. It is trying to look for column name. Actually it comes from this function called get column name, and is sending an integer into the column name. So column, see here, 0 1 2 3, like that, is sending into this function. Is of course implicitly public string get column name, and then once it's asked for the column name, we can just return columns is our, see this array, into the array we send the column they are looking for, 0 1 2 3, like that. And this is going to be, it's an array, so it's square brackets we use. I think that's the error. Let's see. Room, oh, still, but yeah, but the names appear. Hotel name, hotel number, you still have some problems. Okay, we'll fix that soon. but this is how it appears. Okay, so every room you create appears here. See, this is the room, and then you have here have this hotel ID, room number, everything. So it's kind of nice. Now we have this table from the database, and hotel name still doesn't appear, and this is because, let's try to, I think that's the issue here. Hotel name, so it's returning hotel ID. This has to be dot dot get hotel name. Okay, I think that's the error. Oh, still there is some error. There it is. Okay, this is Pinnacle Hotel. Now they appear correctly. The seller data has to be disabled. Okay, so basically this is the idea. That's the basic idea. So we'll I'll find out what this error is and then fix it. Yeah. So how do you get the data and display into the column, display into the room? That's the basic idea of all these details. And once you have, is it this that is being returned? No, some message box with random data is being shown. You can look for that error in the, definitely in the room controller there is some error somewhere in the data. Get hotel ID room count, we have an error here. Room IDs, we have an error display. So somewhere we are displaying the message box with no details. Okay, we find out why. Get room record, all of the records it is being received. There is no other error as far as I can see, and then it's returning this value. Then in the abstract model here, in the table model, it is also returning the rows. So yeah, that's how you do it. You try this anyway yourself into the CRUD, see if you are able to create those tables. You know, it's kind of nice to have a table layout where you can actually see the tables. Column, row index, column index, this is actually the row, and we are getting that row for a specific room. Yeah. Okay guys, so thank you very much for seeing. That's the idea. I wanted to continue with that until we are able to have a table, and try to do that yourself. Okay, thank you very much.